Today's episode is powered by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. As they stand in solidarity with the Black community and everyone fighting for racial and food justice, HelloFresh is proud to support Black voices and to affirm that Black lives matter today and every day.
Full Service Radio is proudly supported and hosted by Simplecast, the easiest way for a podcast creator to publish and distribute audio on the internet. For more information, visit simplecast.com.
Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting live from the lobby of the Line, D.C. On this show, you hear from the voices of dynamic Black people and people of color in the agriculture, food justice, and healing space as they share empowering food narratives and perspectives that stem from the land, all while exemplifying the spirit of activism in their own edible way. Let's get started. Peace and welcome to the Edible Activist Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa L. Jones, broadcasting on Full Service Radio. Today on the show, I have an absolutely amazing guest. I have the pleasure to speak with Tamara Elmore, affectionately known as Tam in the Garden in the IG world. Tam is an avid urban and community gardener who resides in Richmond, VA, spreading joy and cheer in the growing space amongst many, many gardening peers. She's what I consider a community ambassador and connector and has been such a big, big supporter of edible activists and food talks in color since inception. Tam, welcome. I'm so honored to have you on the show.
Thank you. I am so honored to be here. This is really a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I can see your smile. I can't see you like physically, but I can feel it and I could just see it. It's in my spirit. It's in my spirit. Okay. This is going to be good. So, Tam, I'm loving all the wonderful projects and collaborations you got going on, and we are here to dish it all. But first,
thank you.
Absolutely. But I would be remiss if I did not share the beginnings of our connection. So similar to our good girlfriend, gal friend, Brandy of Easy Living Gardens, we're going to shout out her.
Yes, Brandy.
I remember when I started this, I was reaching out to folks in the growing space to share their food journey. And not only did you share your journey on my platform, but you were so engaged and still are with the other stories that were being amplified.
Yes.
And so, yes, you truly were. And before we jump into our conversation, let's take a listen at what you shared, okay?
After returning to my hometown, I took residence in a house previously owned by my grandparents, where many people had known me since childhood. I had a neighbor who would always say, "Girl, you need to plant something." I was not an outside person and therefore uninterested in growing anything. However, he was persistent and eventually I obliged him by planting a few flowers in my front yard. Surprisingly, I felt an instant connection and soon journeyed into growing food in a small section of my backyard. As my interest deepened, so did the size of my garden. In a quest for information, I started volunteering at 2 area community gardens where I learned how to build basic garden boxes and proper techniques for everything from sowing seeds to composting. I obtained a certification in organic gardening and even attended farm school. These days, I can be found enjoying my garden on most mornings, completely lost in the sounds of nature or giving tours to anyone who asks. I respond to countless garden questions. I'm known to leave seeds, seedlings, and fertilizer at the homes of my garden friends and can be counted on to deliver freshly harvested herbs and vegetables to anyone that will have them. More than anything, I enjoy helping others start their own journeys in growing good food at home and look forward to many years in the garden.
Tam, It's so funny because, well, first of all, I just love seeing your every move. As with everybody who I interview, I'm literally like on the hills virtually of everyone in the IG world. Like, what are they growing? What are they doing? And you are certainly like at the top of that list. And it's so
Oh
funny.
my goodness.
Yes, you are. You are. You are. And it's funny because like you're a gardener and just hearing your story. And by the way, like you shared that story a few years back, right? But I would have never imagined that you had went to farm school. And I definitely want to talk about that for a bit because I'm not sure how many people know that. But I also have to mention that, your story started with like the flower. Someone was just like, just plant something. You said, okay, I'm gonna plant a few flowers, right? And so from flowers to like where you are now and just like this big community of folks who adore you and you just beam with just so much joy in what you do. And if you're going to cry, that's okay. Because I know you're emotional. I've heard
I
you say
am
that. I am too.
very much so.
But let's tap into because some know your story and some don't. But I want to dig a little bit more, into how you started in this space. But also I want to know about your experience in farming school and what how that led you or how that path just kind of like took you to where you are. So again, from flowers to farming school and just other certificates that you got. But let's just tap into those beginnings just a bit.
Yeah, so um it all started with my neighbor, and I really think that I was led back to my grandmother's home and I was led to this path. I don't think that any of this just happened. I really think it was purposeful in my life as I look back on it now. But at the time, like I literally had no love for the outside. So I like growing anything was not on my list of things I wanted to do. The most I would do is go sit out on my stoop. And I just gave my neighbor the best opportunity to push me in this direction. And when I started growing flowers, it was really just to, get him off my back. But I realized how peaceful it was making me and how much better my work days was starting. And it was helping me deal with my stress. And, I guess I was just feeling the vibes like from the very beginning. And it just made me want to go deeper in. So flowers turned into a pot of tomatoes. And I just said the other day, I feel like tomatoes are like the entry vegetable into this thing. Like everybody starts with a little tomato love. But that grew into, okay, I did the tomato thing. Let me see what else I can grow. But I had no clue of what I was doing. So I joined a class, a free gardening class held in Richmond every year. And I believe that was the first year that they were doing the class that I attended. Went to the class. From going to that class, I found out about a community garden in my neighborhood. And I also found out about the farm school opportunity. So the farm school was was hosted by a local university, and I knew when I went to the pro into that program that I did not want to be a farmer, but I believed that it could make me a much better gardener. And that's definitely, what happened. I just took a lot of what they taught for people entering into the farm world and scaled it down to make it work in my garden, like taking care of the soil, um, planting, knowing what to plant with the seasons, keeping, maintaining your garden space, learning about the insects. And then also they taught a lot about market gardening too. So for small scale farming, they taught about that a lot. There's a huge um, group of people who farm for local markets here. I guess they would be like micro farmers, a lot of backyard farmers that sell at the markets, and they taught about how to do that successfully. They taught about advertising. And really, I just took all the pieces that I gained from going to farm school and made it work for me as a home gardener. And it was super valuable information.
I
And
think
I
that's
think that
great.
that's really what led me here and what has kept me in the gardening space.
So you didn't want the 10 acres and a mule? You didn't want all that?
Listen, I can't handle it. I'm like, I would love it, but I know my limitations, and I feel like this garden life is good for me.
Listen, you are doing it, and I love that you were honest with yourself, and also just saw like the value in attending farm school and say, like I
Yes.
can learn so much from this, but let me go in this lane and scale to this. So I mean, you were honest. You were honest.
And I met like some great people, and the people were doing different things. Like it was, people that were doing vegetable farming, people that were only doing egg chickens for eggs only. Then you had people that were meat farmers. So it was like different things. Then you had social activists that were looking at farming from that lens, and so, it was like people there for a lot of different reasons. It was really an eye-opening experience. I learned so much, and it really gave me a lot of respect for farmers and for everything that goes into bringing that food to market. And so I was really glad that I had the experience for that reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I have to go back to flowers because I absolutely love flowers. You want to make me happy? Everyone listening out there, you want to make me happy? Flowers.
Yes.
I've always had this dream of having a flower farm. All right. Like, I'm not even thinking about the maintenance that goes along with it. Okay. Like, let's just be very clear. But like, flowers they just make me so happy. And I know that you've actually been part of like a flower project as well, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I love flowers. I absolutely love flowers. But no, that's great. I wanted the world to hear that because I love that you have this like farming school, like knowledge, like, under your belt. But you're like, this is the space that works for me. And again, you have been doing it. And I'm so excited. You also mentioned tomatoes, which we're going to get into a bit later as well. So we're going to hold that thought for a moment. But
Okay.
thank you for sharing all that. But I definitely want to. And the thing is, Tam, like you are just the bomb. You've been doing everything. And I swear, like, we probably need like 4 parts to this podcast episode because there's so many things that we could talk about. But I love, with Tam in the Garden, one of the things that also just draws me close to, into what you do is just like your transparency and your vulnerability like in this space. So when we talk about like healing and like the chronic pain that you
Yes.
have endured and dealt with, you've even done series. I was looking at just some of the amazing women that you brought in to talk about, like food and health and, using the herbs that you grow, like literally utilizing what you grow to like help with pain and, and healing. And so I want to touch on that a bit if you don't, if that's okay to share. But I
Oh,
love that
sure.
you're an open book. And I think we need to be, and especially in a space where our Black folk, we need all the healing in the world.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
yes, let's talk about it.
Well, yes, I do have a series that I did last year on gardening with chronic pain. And it really was just one day I was working on a project. I think I was putting down mulch, and I kind of like breezed over, like doing this task with chronic pain, and got a really surprising response to that. And what I found is that there were so many people that were gardening that were also dealing with different chronic pain issues. For me, I have fibromyalgia.
Mm,
People have arthritis.
yes.
People have other, like all different types of illnesses that impact their body movement, their mood, and yet
Emotional.
they're finding different ways to garden. And so I really kind of wanted to dig into that, and start offering my experience and the experience of other people to hopefully help some people who maybe were watching and wanted to be gardening but felt like so restricted by whatever their issues were, to give them some encouragement that this is something that you can do. And I mean, because you can garden, indoors. You can garden outside with just a single pot. Like, it's so many different ways that you can do that. Like, really telling people to get a support system, have people that's in your family or in your community, that are willing to help you. Like, ask for help, get them to do some of the things that you feel like you can't do, so that you can really be in the garden and have that experience. Because I think a big part of gardening is what it does for you mentally, like the zen space that you go into when you're having that experience. Like, I always say that I feel like I meditate as a part of my garden experience. And that helps me to stay relaxed. And being relaxed helps my body to keep from experiencing so much stress. So, it's like one thing leads into the other. And then definitely, even if you're just growing like a tea garden and you're using teas that maybe help with limiting some of the inflammation that you may experience, or maybe if you're doing exercise in the garden. Like, there's so many different things that you can do that would be helpful to you with gardening kind of in the background. So that's something that we explore, and it's been wonderful to have different people to come in. We've had a dietitian, we've had a nurse, we've had a photographer to come in and use garden photography and meditation together, mindfulness. Also, a naturalist to come in and talk about, like, just experiencing the earth. Like, we've tried to go from a lot of different perspectives, and we will be picking that series back up in May.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, Tam, did you find that when you started your garden and you started eating more of the foods that you were growing right in your backyard, did you feel a difference just in your overall, like, mood and just how you felt each day, and did some of the pain, whether it been chronic pain, emotional pain, do you feel like it really, did you notice it instantly? And yeah, did you notice that as when you started, eating your own food in your backyard?
I would say it was instantly. Like, I
Oh,
noticed it
wow.
before I started growing food. Like, literally, I started growing my few little flowers, and I noticed the difference. At that time I was having a really stressful experience, like, in the workspace, and it was definitely impacting my mood negatively, what I was going through at work. But I found that when I was in the garden, I was so much more calm. Like, with my few flowers, it really did not take a lot for me to have that experience and to notice a change. And it was the change in how I was feeling inside that made me want to really go deeper. Cause it's like I feel like I'm being fed, like, almost in a spiritual way. And
Hmm.
so I want to have the food. I want to go to the next level. And so, yes, so it, like, all built, one thing leading into another thing. And it was all positive. And I still feel that, of course, the experience when you grow food and then you eat it and you realize what fresh, um, good quality food tastes like, that's joy on its own.
Oh my gosh, say it, girl, say it. And you'll never go back to a schmegular tomato again.
Exactly. Yeah, tomatoes specifically. It's like, no, I'll go ahead and wait until it's the right season. I'll wait till
Listen,
that's in my garden.
listen, Tam, I am trying to tell you, I will put off a tomato until I can get my hands on a garden fresh heirloom. I don't care what variety it is. It just needs to come from somebody's yard, my yard, whatever. It will
Yes,
change your
yes.
life.
It really will. I mean, it's like when you have food that you grew in your garden and realize that taste difference, it is mind blowing. Like you could have
Absolutely.
thought, I'm going to whatever grocery store and I'm getting the best and this is nice. Let it come out your garden. You will be amazed.
That's a shirt. Let it come out your garden. Okay, that's a shirt for you, Tam. That's a shirt.
Let it come out. Okay, I like it.
Listen, I have been known to pick out some taglines on these shows. All right. So y'all better leverage. All right. Leverage.
I'm picking up what you putting down.
All right, y'all. We are going to take a really short break and we'll be right back. HelloFresh offers convenient delivery right to your doorstep for easy home cooking with the family. With a variety of delicious options made available, you'll feel super duper confident in breaking out of your recipe rut to try new things. And since HelloFresh is committed to making fresh, delicious food available now more than ever, they have taken extra steps to keep its employees and customers safe, including no contact delivery, tamper-proof packaging, and team member wellness checks. Head on over to HelloFresh.com to start planning your next meal. You're listening to Perfect Day, produced by Artists Authentic. For more of Authentic's work, visit allornothingstudios.com. All right, peace and welcome back to the Edible Activist Podcast. I am your host, Melissa L. Jones, speaking with the wonderful Tam in the Garden. I'm not going to even say your full government name, Tam. Like, it's Tam in the Garden. It is Tam in the Garden. Go look her up on IG. Everybody knows her. Tam in the Garden. And so we have been dishing, literally dishing about
Yes.
Tam's journey into the garden space. Listen, she returned to Richmond some years ago. Neighbor was like, look, you need to grow something. I know that's kind of like a similar story with me, but you're all the way in and I'm like all the way out on the outskirts, just FYI in full transparency. But, neighbor said, grow something. Tam didn't want any parts of the soil, a plant, nothing. She started growing flowers. And boom, like her whole world is just it's just in the garden. Like literally, you are the garden, Tam. You are the garden.
Oh, thank you.
You are. And one of the things that we had spoke about earlier in the show, in which I feel like it's still like a little unknown fact to like many, is that Tam went to farming school and realized that, Tam, you was just like, listen, this has taught me a lot, but let me just do garden. Let me garden and let me pull from what I learned in farming school to build what I have and to, really just dive deeper into the soil, but
Yes,
in the garden space. And so one of the
absolutely.
things that you had mentioned, which is so, so, so important, is that like marketing, like some of the trainings and the teachings is around marketing and like selling, because like it's if you wanted to, if you don't want it to be a hobby, I mean, it's still a hobby for most, but like turning this into a business. So now we're segueing into entrepreneurship. And, I feel like this is not even necessarily touchy anymore. I feel like, and I think we've had this conversation before, that some folks are afraid to like turn their hobby into something, into a business. They're afraid to ask for
Yes.
money, they're afraid to do this.
Right.
But I love that, so not only like have you just been collaborating with like a ton of people, but you're like, listen, like you've been putting out some really awesome resources, and now this really is like a business platform, but still something that you love. And so first, I definitely want to show reverence for the womenpreneurs in your family, because I know that there's some women in your lineage, who you had to think about, like, no, they were entrepreneurs, and because they are, I am. So I just want, for just
Yes.
a few moments, just want to talk about like gardening and entrepreneurship. And like, was this a hard thing for you to tiptoe into? Did you have any reservations about it? And what? Yeah, just again showing reverence for the womenpreneurs. I could talk today, guys, in your family, but also you being an entrepreneur now in this space.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm tiptoeing currently, like as we speak. I'm in the tiptoe phase.
And that's okay. That's okay.
I'm not all the way in, but I recognize that this is what I really love to do. And I always hear people talk about turning your passions into a business so that you always love what you're doing and it's not really work anymore because this is what you want to be doing with your time. And so I just really been thinking about that lately. And I think that in the midst of this pandemic, it's really made it more important to me to feel more fulfilled in every aspect of my life. And so I said, well, hey, what is it, that I have to offer? Let me look at some of the things that I've been working on, that I've been holding on to, that I probably should go ahead and release into the world and not be scared. Like, just put myself out there because I think so many times we have fear that's not real. Like, there's no basis for it.
Mm.
There's really not anything holding us back. We're just finding excuses not to take those steps forward. And so this year, it's just really important to me to put myself out there and just go for it. And I'm really um, just going to follow my heart and follow the things that I've already been working on and really develop those things and put them out and just see where it leads me. So I have some goals and some, plans, but I'm also um, feeling like I'm just going to let the universe guide
All
in
right.
some way. And definitely, I wrote a post on my Instagram about how it came to me that women in my family have been entrepreneurs. I had never looked at them in that way. It was never something that occurred to me, but it was the women in my family and then also other women that I had come in contact with, because I think that we only give that title to certain professions. But my great aunt had been a caregiver. I found out that one of my great grandmothers on my father's side was she ironed for people, and my
Wow.
grandmother was a housekeeper. And we think about these things and they don't seem like a big deal, but really, if you're able to provide for yourself, for a family, you're able to support grandchildren and grandchildren and have a home and a life off of those things, we should give it more respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that really came to me. And I think that it came to me because um, in my mind, I may have been looking at entrepreneurship as being something grander, for me, and feeling like finding my way through my gardening work that I love so much maybe wasn't enough. And I think it just really confirmed for me that no, it is enough. And you need to really follow your heart and you need to take this step forward and look at it for what it is. And what it is a business that you are developing.
Ooh. We could just end the show on that, but we're not done yet. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. And you know what? In full transparency with me, I love what I do. Sometimes I ain't in love with it though. And it's not because I don't love what I do. It's just I have my moments, and
Right.
because you're so into it and I'm such a perfectionist and I am a event planner by trade and formerly did that for 10 plus years. So it needs to be perfect, which I am learning to let go of. Oh my gosh. But I love how you rounded that out. That is awesome. Okay, so let's definitely let's seeds. Let's talk about seeds, right?
Yes.
This isn't disjointed, and I say that because seeds is an amazing guide that I just purchased myself, and I said the word purchased, okay, from Tam and the
Thank
Garden
you.
Business, all
Yes.
right.
Thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I know it was overwhelming. You had so much support on this resource, and I'm excited for you. And another reason I'm just so happy about it is because even like last year when I was growing, a good brother I had bought some seeds from. I was like, what do I do with these? Because I'm not the expert as I talk to everybody else who's the expert. I was just like, where do I start? How do I start?
Yes.
When do I bring them out? How long do they
Right.
stay in? I had 1,000 questions. And so for you to put out this resource is spot on. And I know my mother and my sister are gonna be like, where that resource at? Where did I know that I know I'm gonna get a text like soon. Where that resource at? I am so excited. So let's talk more about seeds because this is dope. This is so dope.
Yes. Well, thank you
Bring
again
on the
for your
seeds.
support. Um, so I have been gardening for a long time. That entire time I didn't do like seed starting. I really purchased majority of my seedlings, anything that I wasn't going to directly in the garden. And I just when I transitioned over to seed starting, there was just so much I didn't know. I like, and it was basically like what you said. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how many I need. I just don't know what to do with this. And I've been collecting thoughts. I've been collecting facts. I've been collecting ideas. I've been collecting all of those experiences from things that went well, things that didn't go well. And when I looked at everything I had gathered up, I'm like, I really think that I have a lot of things that, should really be considered if you're going to start seeds that you may not really think about. And that led me to writing Bring on the Seeds, which is a resource and journal for starting seeds indoors and outdoor direct sowing. And I really tried to dig into all of the elements like seed yield, determining how much you need based on the number of people in your family,
Ooh.
soil considerations, actually sowing the seeds, things to do, things not to do, understanding when to plant, understanding the information from the seed packet. Like, I really tried to dig into all of the different areas. And one thing, I really have respect for the fact that we all figure out the ways that work for us. Like, there are so many ways that you can get to the same end result. And I totally respect that. And I really tried to take this from the perspective of just making sure you're thinking about everything and you have your bases covered to help you to get to the point of success. And maybe you don't like the same seed companies that I like, or maybe all of what I do to start my seeds doesn't really resonate with you. But what this will do is give you some guideline and will do exactly what you said, Melissa, and helping you know where to start and how to start.
I
And
think that's
so
so great.
I
That's
could not have expected the support that I received. It just meant so much to me. It still means so much to me. I'm just truly touched and grateful for the gardening community that I found. through Instagram and then also outside of Instagram. And really, my goal is to just share all of the things that I've learned and hopefully inspire people to not just start gardening, because a lot of people start, but they don't stick with it. And I really want to encourage and inspire people to keep going and keep growing.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Well, I can't wait to dig in. I bought it, but I haven't dug in yet. So don't judge me too badly. But I cannot wait. I'm excited. And I like that you said, there's so many different ways to get to the end result. And especially in the growing space, there's so many resources out there. And we have so many
Yes.
amazing people who I've spent time with and talked to who they have their own methods of
Yes,
growing
absolutely.
and cultivating. And so I'm glad that you said that, because that is just so spot on. So it's, your resource, and then there's just a number of just other resources and influencers and just videos. Oh gosh, YouTube's galore. And so I'm just glad that you said that, because that's so true. And it makes it less intimidating, because we think we're sometimes can be so linear. We think it's just one way and that's it.
Right.
That's how that one thing gonna grow.
Exactly. Right. You
That's
have to find your way. But even in doing that, some guidance is always helpful.
You ain't never lied. You ain't never lied. Okay, so can we briefly, because I got to wrap up in a few moments, but can we briefly talk about this dynamic duo with you and Brandy? We got to shout Brandy out again. Easy
Yes,
Living Gardens with this tomato collaborate. Speaking of tomatoes, we were talking about tomatoes, y'all.
speaking of tomatoes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. Tell the audience about the tomato collaboration. We are waiting.
Yes. So Brandy and I collaborated on a resource for growing tomatoes. And again, we tried to really dig in and cover everything. We covered the different types, the sizes, planting, the fertilizers. We talked about the hardiness zones, harvesting. We talked about the pests, the issues, handling those issues. We really tried to put together all of the things that we think people experience in the garden when they're growing tomatoes, and then have to run to Google. So it's like, nope, won't have to run and Google that. Here we go. We've put all this together for you. We have pictures in there of all the pests, the hornworms, the fruit worms, the aphids, like all of the different pests. We talk about the issues again with different diseases and things like that. We talk about growing. We give out personal tips. We talk about companion planting. We talk we talk about the difference in the ways that we companion plant. We really just try to give all of the goods on growing a nice, tasty, juicy, delicious tomato.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, and it was really a joy. I've been talking with Brandy on Instagram for so long. And it's so funny, like Instagram, you become friends with people and it's like they're really in your everyday living and life, even though you've never met them in
Oh yeah,
person.
y'all are
But
my
you
BFFs.
connect.
All y'all my
Yes.
BFFs.
Yes, exactly. It's like these are my good friends. And so to be able to work with her about something that we both enjoy growing, and just to combine knowledge and have something that we can offer to people, it was just wonderful. It was really a joy working with her on the project.
That's super dope. I can't wait to dig into that. And I know I will be waiting waiting on a text from my mother to about that tomato resource, because this woman in growing tomatoes. But that's awesome. Tam, I have to ask, what are some of your favorite gardening tools? Or what are some tools that you like, what? I can't be out here if I don't have this, that, the other. I don't care if you said it's my teddy bear. I just need the teddy bear to sit here. I don't care if it's a favorite glove, shovel. Actually, I don't even think I've ever asked that question. What are just some favorite tools that you cannot do without when you're out in the garden?
one of my tools, which I don't hear a lot of people saying they've tried this before, but there is a garden tool called a trach. It is a trowel on one end and a rake on the other end. And that is like my all-time favorite because typically if I'm in the garden, I'm trying to scratch the surface of the soil, I'm trying to dig something up, I can take my trach with me. Then I love to have a soil knife on hand. So if I have to cut twine, I can use it if I need to dig. It usually has measurements on the soil knife. So if I'm trying to figure out what the depth of something is, I can use that. If I'm trying to cut off like a vegetable, like maybe I have some cabbage in the garden, I can just cut it right off with a nice clean cut with my soil knife. So I love that. Love having a regular rake on hand. I'm really particular, like when I turn over my soil, or even if I don't turn it, if I just kind of loosen all of my soil up and I'm preparing for a planting, I love to give my bed a nice going over with the rake so everything is nice and level. And so I love using the rake. I think I have a lot of tools that I really love, but I'm gonna say the trach is my favorite. Soil knife for sure, the rake, and you gotta have a good hoe on hand too.
Gotta have a good hoe on hand, all right? Y'all hear that? I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So I think this has been a pleasure, y'all. There's going to be like many parts to this because I didn't even scratch the surface of what I really want. I mean, we talked about a lot and there's just so much to what you do, Tam, but most importantly, what I definitely want to spotlight is the fact that not only are you just in your own backyard, you really are a part of the Richmond community. And so I know that you volunteer. I know that you are a part of the community in the growing space. And I know that's very important to you, you know?
Yes.
Absolutely. So I definitely just want to point that out. Um, Tam, tell the church, where we can find you, where we can find these handy dandy resources, because we need to know.
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at Tam in the Garden. I can be found on the web on my website, which is www.taminthegarden.com. Those are going to be the two main places. Instagram, if you want to chit chat with me, Instagram is going to be the spot. I respond to all of my direct messages and I do my best to respond to all of the comments that I receive on my posts. So that's going to be the best place to chit chat. I can also be found on YouTube. I think the YouTube is going to be under Tell More Gardens, but if you search for Tam in the Garden, I should come up and a children's book with the same name.
Oh,
But
wow.
I can be found there as well. And links to both books are available on my Instagram page, and they can also be accessed from my website.
All right, all right, all right. But before I actually really let you go, before the church lets out, all right, I got a few
Okay,
rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Tam, in the garden, what is your favorite veggie or fruit?
Kale.
Yes, for the kale.
Yes.
All right. Flavor profile: sweet, spicy, sour, salty, savory, or bitter?
Absolutely salty, huge popcorn and chip fan.
I appreciate your honesty. I'm actually having a salt, like I've been craving salt all day. It's bad, but I'm being honest. All right, Tam, the last artist or podcast you listened to. And I mean like recent, like before this show, whenever whatever was in your blasting in your earbuds.
Um, I was in the car and I was listening to the Music Soul Child station on Pandora,
Yes, for Music
and I
Soul
jammed
Child.
out to that on my ride today.
That's awesome. I love it. And I'm a fan of Music Soul Child. So awesome. Okay. who are you rooting for these days? And this can be anybody. This could be somebody in your family. This could be your neighbors. It's kind of like a playoff Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black, but we love everybody though.
We love everybody. I'm rooting for everybody that's growing good food at home and in their communities. And also, there's one person that I'm really rooting for that I want to give a shout out, and that is Dee at Shiptown Botanical, Black woman in Virginia that's just started a flower farm, and I am rooting for her like nobody's business.
Oh my gosh, Dee, we gotta have you on the show. Can I come to Richmond to come visit y'all? Like, can a sister come?
Yes, we
I'll
would
wear a
love
mask.
to have you.
We
Come
good.
on down.
I'll show my negative COVID test. I'll wear a mask. Like I want to pull up.
True.
That's awesome. A flower farm. That's my girl. Okay. All right, Dee. Shout out, Dee. Well, Tam, again, this has been such a pleasure. I appreciate you. Y'all, when Tam says that she does respond like to her messages on IG and like everything, like she is a resource. The community like loves her. Everyone loves you, Tam. I swear I've had conversations on this show and they're like, Tam's awesome. Tam is amazing. And just thank you for what you do. Your work is just so inspiring. And I can't wait to like see everything in real time. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you very much. This has been wonderful.
All right, y'all
and marvelous.
Yes, and marvelous. All right, y'all. Y'all have an amazing day. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. You can catch today's episode on fullserviceradio.org as well as iTunes and Spotify. Be sure to follow Food Talks in Color, that's just the letter N, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for all updates. Are you an edible activist? Sure you are. Come join me on the show. Just shoot me a DM on the gram or connect with me at foodtalksincolor.com. And if you're interested in sponsoring this podcast, let's connect. Peace and blessings. And remember, in the words of Baba Tariq Adunu, there is no culture without agriculture.